Welcome back to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Norman Robinson. Tonight we're talking about the push to firmly establish a local citizen participation program to give residents a real voice in determining land use in their communities. One the city and neighborhood organizations agree will work. The mayor's office was unable to send anyone to join us tonight, but they did send this statement which reads, quote, "Community engagement is vital to the future of New Orleans and something this administration believes in strongly. 2 years ago, Mayor Landrieu created the Neighborhood Engagement Office and staffed it with a team of people focused solely on improving the relationship between the community and city government. The office works across every city agency to ensure that the community and residents have every opportunity to receive information, have their opinions heard, and engage in decision-making opportunities. In 2012, we hosted, led, and participated in almost 300 community meetings, offering opportunities for input on the budget, capital projects, and crime reduction efforts. We have a solid framework in place that is more cost-efficient than other models, including the NOLA CPP. We are creating true partnerships between the community and city, and we will continue building on the good work already underway." Once again, we are joined by Keith Twitchell, President of Committee for Better New Orleans, and Timolynn Sams, the Executive Director of the Neighborhood Partnership Network. The statement from the mayor suggests that the citizen participation plan that you are proposing, as I read it, is unnecessary. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, first off, we get it that this administration is doing more in terms of civic engagement than pretty much any other administration ever. That's good. We appreciate it. But there's a fundamental issue here, and that is, what did they say? They said they've hosted 300 meetings. Their view of civic engagement is the city sets a meeting. It sets the time, the location, the agenda, and it determines how long citizens have to speak. Best practices in civic engagement worldwide, nationwide, say that you create capacity within the community, you create a table, and government goes to the community rather than insisting the community goes to government. Another question is, where in the process do these meetings take place? Do they take place before the decisions are made, or is government going out and saying, well, this is kind of what we think, we hope you agree with us? And as far as the cost-efficient piece, I'm not even sure what that means, because our projection suggests that it will cost about $6 per person per year to do what we've proposed, and I would consider that's pretty cost-efficient.
I'll let you chime in on that before I ask the question about the cost.
In agreement with Keith, I think that the city has done, in the this last administration, has done a great job in harnessing in on the level of civic engagement that has already been set forth or was already in place in a post-Katrina environment. However, I look at New Orleans neighborhoods as a xylophone. Some has very high capacity to engage in civic processes, and some don't. And what we haven't done is built the capacity of all neighborhoods to be engaged in all types of processes. And so what we see, whether it be through the budgeting meetings, right, as a great example, we see residents turn out for those processes, but how do those comments match up with what the community is seeing in the outcome? How do they see their decisions being a part of the outcomes of the decisions that's being made by those decision makers? And how do we explain, or where's the data that connects to those? And a CPP provides all of that. It's not just one streamline, but it is an open space for communication to happen. And it's also a place for you to understand why certain decisions are being made.
But would you not, in fact, be overburdening an already bureaucratic, heavy system?
I don't see that, you know, and in fact, I think what, again, while appreciating what the administration is doing, is what they're doing is they're burdening the community, because people engage, whether it's through their neighborhood, their church, whatever, and then they're being asked to come to this meeting about the budget, and that meeting about NORD, and this meeting at City Council, instead of the government going to where the citizens are already gathering, and the NORD people and the budget people and the parks people and the safety people all coming and saying, here's what's on the table, let's talk about it.
So you're saying that all of these issues should be lumped into one basket and then discussed in a particular meeting?
Or put on one table for the citizens to be there. And as Timolynn and I have talked before, it's not just going to the table, it's also giving the residents the tools to be at that table. So it's not just giving information. It's great that this administration is getting out much more information to the community, but the community does not inherently have the capacity to sift through that information, understand that information, augment that information, and discuss amongst itself. The current structure is dialogue between a resident and the mayor, or a resident and the council, rather than residents conversing with government.
Well, that goes back to the question I asked in the first segment. Who would train citizens to ask these kind of questions, and wouldn't they need some kind of professional help?
So there is a component as it relates to through CPC, City Planning Commission, that those districts would have a particular professional to work with them. But there's also, in this current landscape, nonprofits that are helping to build the capacity of residents to engage in those processes. We have moved from being residents to urban planners in the last 7 years. So our capacity is continuously growing. What we haven't done is created a systematic way in which we make that happen.
Well, I take it that there's going to be some discussion on this model based on the discrepancies that you have laid out here between your model, what you're suggesting, and what the mayor's office has already put in place. But let's talk about the cost. Cost is always an important priority. Might the Landrieu administration have a point when it comes to cost? As I recall, if my memory serves me correctly, back in 2010, the draft guidelines for such a plan was submitted to the City Planning Commission for review and used in complying with the city charter. And that draft guideline estimated the annual cost of such a program that you're talking about at around $2 million.
Correct. Like I said, that works out to about $6 per person per year. And I would
But that's $2 million.
Well, understood. But here's another thought. So since we began working on this, going out to the community and asking what the community wants, I mean, the model we proposed was designed by community members. So one of the things they've said, they want a dedicated funding source, whether it's a $5 parcel fee, a small fee on the water utility bill, which is probably not such a good idea right now since it's already gone up. But the point is, they've said they want a dedicated funding source so that it's actually not part of the general fund, because if it comes out of the general fund, all it takes is 1 year of bad budgets or bad politics, and it's cut. So I could even argue that if we bring this forth and the citizens back that up and vote to put on a $5 fee, it's even more cost efficient because it's not coming out of the general fund.
I'll give you an example. When you think of how much money is lost also when bad development happens, then you see the need of how that money is equitably used to change those dynamics when you have a citizen participation process. We could go from neighborhood to neighborhood on when you see a box coming up in your neighborhood and you have no clue what that is or what it was. And I'm recently learning that if the zoning is still the same and there's no changes in the zoning, it doesn't even have to come to council. So you can contact your council member, and your council member has no clue what that is. So that in itself gives us reason enough to say, how do we create a process or a system in which everyone is informed of what's happening in your own neighborhood?
When is this issue up for discussion before the City Planning Commission?
Well, the first major piece of it, the early notification system, which is not controversial. Okay. That's coming up for the Planning Commission on March 12th.
March 12th.
And will then go to council.
All right, so that's an important date to remember.
Right.
For citizen
And that's
participation.
the building block for the whole thing.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. That's all the time we have. Again, thanks to my guests, and as always, thanks to you for watching. Now let's head back over to the news.